if we just take a look back and really critically evaluate the things that we've witnessed the federal government do in the last century, and I mean also the things that have come out that corporations have done as well. I mean, pretty much any of these powerful organizations. You can look at the opiate epidemic that was, pharmaceutical companies just being greedy and trying to sell you things that are fine. They're not addictive. But next thing you know, soccer moms are ruining their lives and going and buying heroin because they rolled their ankle and were overprescribed OxyContin or you name it. And then, I mean, you've got the JFK files that Trump wanted to release. I mean, multiple presidents have wanted to release this, and it's just apparently there's still too much dirt. There's too much there for them to be able to tell the truth. So that gives you a barometer for the kind of information just on that subject that exists. If more than 50 or 60 years later, you still can't let that information go out, that means that the people that were involved are still in power, or at least their family is, even if the original architect is dead. Their successor must still be involved in pretty high levels of society, whether that's government or corporate. And, we all watched 9/11 happen. We all watched the WMD situation unfold in Iraq. And, they keep telling you one thing. And then when the evidence comes out and proves what they told you wrong, we all just move forward and say, "Oh, wow, what a mistake, man. We'll try not to do that again." But after they do it enough times, and other governments do it, it just kills me that people don't start to realize that it's purposeful, that it is part of their playbook to lie and generate justification for things that have no justification. Um, there's people that believe the Lusitania, the ship that was sank and got the U.S. into the war because there were American citizens on that vessel. There's people that believe that this was a conspiracy because the Germans took out a full page ad in the New York Times saying, "Don't get on this ship. We are sinking vessels in these shipping lanes. You are not safe." And the government allowed U.S. citizens on the ship and allowed the ship to depart into the war zone. And then um, clearly you could see what the outcome was once that ship left port. Um, we were going to become involved in the war. You had the Bay of Pigs incident, which was the supposed justification for entering the Vietnam conflict, and that also never happened. And now you've got supposed U.S. UFO disclosures coming out. You've got government whistleblowers testifying in front of Congress, um, and that's been something that they've been saying is just conspiracy theory for years. But suddenly now we're changing laws to protect whistleblowers, and this information is starting to come out potentially. If it's not some sort of psyop, I mean, you never can be too sure, sadly. And then you've got the Sound of Freedom movie coming out, and this exposes more in the Epstein world of how bad the child sex trafficking industry is and how big it has grown. It is larger than the weapons trade, and it is larger now than the drug trade. So this is not something that society doesn't have an appetite for. This is something that apparently society has more of an appetite for than weapons or drugs. And I think we all know how much people love their drugs. And alcohol is a drug too. So, I mean, pretty much everybody in the whole world takes drugs. Human beings love drugs. So apparently, the scariest part is that human beings love child sex trafficking more. More resources are being put toward that, and thus growing that trade larger than those other two industries. So the media wants to put out news stories saying that the Sound of Freedom is pushing QAnon conspiracy theories and it's all fake news and propaganda for, I'm not exactly sure what they're trying to get out of it if it was propaganda. It seems like they're just trying to get people to stop trafficking and abusing children. So if it is propaganda, it seems to be propaganda that has a pretty decent and respectable message behind it. But all the mainstream media is just saying that this film is complete trash, and they're calling it bullshit. They're laughing at it and saying it's nonsense and all this stuff. And the numbers don't lie. And in hindsight, just like, you know, when the Nazis were doing their things, not a lot of people were openly critical because the Nazis had power at that time. However, in hindsight, the whole world agrees that the Nazis were, you know, Satan, hell on earth, basically. And so the same people that are going along with the media narrative could be adjacent to Nazi propaganda. It could be spreading things that in hindsight are going to be considered to be extreme evil, historic evil. The idea that we want to discredit people that are going after evil adults who are targeting innocents and children. I'm not sure how you're going to be able to defend that if it all proves to be true and everything is evaluated with the 2020 hindsight that time provides you. People are going to have to stand on that soapbox that they were, you know, choosing to push a message of, oh, this is stuff you shouldn't pay attention to. Well, I hope that people go back and remember those people who were not erring on the side of you know, being conservative and choosing to believe something that, if it's true, is absolutely atrocious. But I guess time will tell. For the moment, it seems to be pretty clear that they are going to do everything that they can to make you feel like an idiot if you believe that this is a problem. And I think that that's a very bizarre way for the media and the government, for that matter, to behave, to just discredit this. And it makes me really wonder how many people that are involved in very powerful organizations are involved in this. I have a sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach that it's not 15% of those people who are involved, and the other 85% are like horrified by this. I have a very, very heavy feeling in the pit of my stomach that makes me suspect that those numbers are probably reversed. And the majority of the people in these positions have either been compromised by blackmail operations like Jeffrey Epstein's, or willingly participated, have a personal interest in this type of thing and in this type of evil. So if we can't get them to voluntarily take this seriously, then it falls to us to take it seriously ourselves. And if the leadership won't make this a priority, then we need to make it a priority at our level. And I would say that this is one of the things, just like back in the days when we decided to abolish slavery, and the number of people that got involved in that fight and organized and pushed and forced change to happen. This is apparently the same situation, because I believe that there are adult, old, powerful men who, when they were 18, wanted to have sex with teenage girls, and now that they're 50, their taste in sexual partners hasn't changed. they don't want an adult woman. They remain stuck in that mindset of, you know, they want youth and innocence. They don't want an equal. They want someone that they can manipulate. They want someone who is less able to understand their manipulation, and young people are just more pliable. They don't have the experiences of being taken advantage of. They're more trusting. They're more naive. This is why the laws that exist currently exist, that prevent a 30-year-old man from having sex with a 15-year-old girl, or vice versa. An adult is just much more capable of bending someone to their will. They've learned how to manipulate people for the most part. And that's a dangerous, dangerous recipe. And you've got states, I believe California is one of them, who are passing laws that are making it now up to the judge whether or not a 24-year-old having sex with a 14-year-old is wrong. They're making it so that the judge can say, oh, that was fine. Circumstantially, that wasn't a big deal. This person doesn't need to go to jail. There's nothing wrong with this situation. It's a 10-year gap. That's what they're allowing for. A 10-year age gap for sexual partners. And they're trying to say it's for, like, you know, an 18-year-old and a 28-year-old, but they are not putting those cutoffs in. And just like they're trying to get rid of religion, and it seems like they want to get rid of morality and shame so that you can do whatever you want without question. And I think that's just a gateway drug. Letting you do whatever you want without shame or question is only the first step. Then convincing you to do what they want, which is also super easy for them if they understand how to manipulate people. And this is what politics at its base level is manipulation and compliance to create order. So once they've made you comfortable doing evil shit for your own purposes, then when they ask you to do some shit that if you had a moral compass you would never even consider, well, now suddenly you're open to it because you've been slowly boiled in the water without realizing that it was getting hotter and hotter. And now you're sitting in this pot of hot water just boiling alive. And you unwittingly put yourself there, you know, by just going along with the government, by not pushing back, by when they tell you that Epstein committed suicide, by not saying, no, that's not correct, by just moving on and moving on with your life and not being concerned with the endless lies that they continue to tell. We just kind of say, well, I know that's not true, but it's not worth arguing. They're never going to admit it. We might as well just move on with our lives. I'm going to go hang out with my friend. I'm going to go do my hobby. I'm going to take a nap because I don't care. It's those little moments of apathy that grow into a much larger cancer in our society, and it's what allows the politicians to become more and more comfortable with doing the evil types of things that they've been doing in plain sight. This is why they're becoming more brazen and more bold, is because they're realizing that people ultimately, even when they know that something has been done that is wrong, are much more likely to move on because they know that they can't do anything about it. They feel helpless. So just forget about it. I don't want to stress about this. I don't want this to eat at me. So it's much easier for me to just push it down into a place where it will never, ever resurface and move on with my life. And we can only do that for so long before things get so rotten that the future of our country, the future of our children, and the future of humanity is put at risk. And this may seem alarmist to most people, but I'm telling you, it's the moment of no return is not always something that's perceptible. So just like the people that are choosing not to err on the side of caution and believe that these children are being abused and help is needed. Um, I would say it's prudent to err on the side of caution and say, well, I don't know if this is the moment of no return, but I think we should start acting like it is because it could be. Um, we could be getting close to a point where it's going to get very difficult to truly turn America back around and get back to a place where you can say the American dream is still alive without laughing or crying, depending on how you react to tragedy, um, about the loss of that dream. So I hope you found something in this little monologue to be useful. I hope this makes sense to you, and I hope that you want to engage, because I'm looking to organize something that may take a very long time to do, but would be very worthwhile. And that is just pushing back on fake information, and and demanding accountability from leaderships, from positions of power. Um, we entrust them with our lives, and they act like they don't work for us. They act like we work for them once they get these positions of power, and it's absolutely insane. It needs to be changed. We need to remove money from the electoral system. We need to put term limits in our Senate and our Congress. All political positions should have term limits, because having this unlimited time window is what allows this corruption to fester and grow in the dark, is giving it so much time. If rich people only have 4 years to buy you, or I mean, I think 8 years might be okay, but if they only have a limited amount of time to buy you, their level of success in corrupting the system is going to be drastically diminished. And I think it could be one of the most helpful changes that we could make is just to impose term limits and get rid of the money that buys seats in our House of Representatives, because that's the real problem. The real problem is that these pools of money and these corporations have grown so large that they have the financial wherewithal to capture the regulators and the lobbyists. And by doing so, they are able to affect the change that they want, and in some cases, affect specifically the change that you don't want, because it takes rights and power away from you. And if it's not about money, it's definitely about power. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I hope that you're motivated to get involved and push back on the government lies and manipulation. Take care, guys.